From a wrongful conviction of a teenager in Brooklyn.
After 48 years, I'm walking out a free man.
And a fight for freedom in St. Louis.
I'm an innocent man, Your Honor, and I have always been an innocent man.
Join us as we delve into these gripping stories of wrongful imprisonment. This is Leonard Mack that spent almost half a century burdened by a conviction for a crime he always insisted he didn't commit. Finally, in a Westchester County courtroom filled with emotion, his tears flowed freely as his 1976 conviction was vacated, thanks to new DNA evidence establishing his innocence. Mack had endured 7 years behind bars in Sing Sing prison for a crime he had no part in, a conviction that continued to shadow his life long after his release. The incident that led to his wrongful conviction occurred in 1975, when 2 teenage girls were attacked by a man while walking home through a wooded area in Greenburgh. Mack was later arrested and convicted, primarily based on his resemblance to a very general description of the assailant, a black man wearing a hat. This happened despite the fact that on the day of the crime, 3 separate witnesses could account for Mack's whereabouts, effectively alibying him from the scene of the attack. After serving his sentence, his fight for justice was taken up by the Innocence Project, which worked tirelessly to clear his name. This case became notable as the longest wrongful conviction overturned by DNA evidence in the history of the Innocence Project.
After 48 years, I'm walking out a free man.
During the hearing that would finally clear his name, the presiding judge asked Mack for a hug in a poignant moment of acknowledgement of the wrongs he had suffered. Additionally, the Westchester County prosecutor extended an official apology for the miscarriage of justice that Mack endured. Remarkably, this moment of vindication coincided with Mack's 72nd birthday, making it an unforgettable gift and a profound symbol of the long-awaited freedom and exoneration he had fought for.
It's a gift that I'll always remember. And as I've told everybody, it's been a long fight.
As he walked out of the Westchester County Court, Leonard Mack's years of anguish and the shadow of a crime he did not commit were replaced by relief and a sense of justice finally served, marking the end of a 48-year ordeal.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty, I'm free! 48 long years, I walked around society being labeled a rapist when I know I didn't do it.
Leonard Mack finally got justice, but you won't believe how much Lamar Johnson spent in prison before he got proven innocent. This is Lamar Johnson that spent nearly 30 years in prison for wrongful conviction. In 1995, Lamar Johnson was convicted for the taking Marcus Boyd life, a crime he always claimed he didn't commit. Nearly 3 decades passed before a court would recognize his innocence. On February 14, 2023, a crowded courtroom in St. Louis witnessed an extraordinary moment as Judge David Mason declared Johnson a free man, overturning his conviction after 28 years behind bars.
And you can read all the analysis, but for the reasons stated above, it is hereby ordered that the motion of the Circuit Attorney of the 22nd Judicial Circuit filed herein for the benefit of Lamar Johnson is granted. The conviction of Lamar Johnson in State v. Lamar Johnson, calls 22-941-37068, is hereby set aside and held for naught. Bailiff?
The tragic event unfolded on the night of October 30th, 1994 in St. Louis, Missouri. Marcus Boyd was enjoying an evening on his front porch with his friend, Greg Elking, when suddenly, 2 masked men approached and fatally fired at Boyd, leaving Elking unharmed as they fled the scene. Investigators turned their attention to Boyd's girlfriend, who was inside their apartment during the incident. She pointed them towards Lamar Johnson, suggesting a recent fallout between him and Boyd could be motive. Lamar Johnson at the time was a 20-year-old father of 2, balancing college and a job at Jiffy Lube while occasionally selling for extra cash. He claimed to have been miles away with his girlfriend, Erica Barrow, and their child when the crime occurred, a claim. Greg Elking, the sole eyewitness, initially hesitated to come forward. When he finally did, his testimony and a problematic photo lineup led to Johnson's arrest and eventual conviction, despite inconsistencies and the lack of a positive identification from Elking during lineups. Years later, doubts about the conviction grew. A letter from Elking admitted to lying at the trial, revealed payments and support he received from law enforcement, which were never disclosed to the defense. The Midwest Innocence Project and St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kimberly Gardner's office, propelled by new evidence and testimonies, including from one of the actual shooters, challenged Johnson's conviction. After a detailed hearing where Johnson himself testified,
The prosecutor.
Oh, Mr. Carrier?
No.
You can distribute to the press.
Hey,
I'm sorry, what?
prosecutor.
Judge Mason found convincing evidence of Johnson's innocence. On Valentine's Day 2023, Lamar Johnson was exonerated, ending a nearly 3-decade-long fight for justice.
It is hereby ordered that the motion of the Circuit Attorney of the 22nd Judicial Circuit filed herein for the benefit of Lamar Johnson is granted. The conviction of Lamar Johnson in State v. Lamar Johnson, cause 22-941-37068, is hereby set aside and held for naught. Bailiff, this hearing is adjourned.
All right.
He walked out of the courtroom, free at last. This case can't be compared to the next case. This is Davontae Sanford that served 8 years for taking 4 lives. Davontae got sentenced when he was 15 years old allegedly for taking 4 lives and got forced to make a confession. Davontae was forced to make a confession because he was an easy target that couldn't defend himself, as he was blind in one and couldn't read or write. Davontae was sentenced to minimum 39 years in prison, which he then tried to take back the confession but got rejected. After 8 years served in prison, a professional hitman confessed that he was the one to blame for the death of the 4. The reason the hitman chose to confess was because he was already serving 52 years in prison for taking another 7 lives. Sanford walked out of prison with his brother and can be seen smiling quietly to himself as he was finally free after 8 years and spent his teenage years in prison. Davontae later talked with Prez and told them that he fought to be free since day 1 in jail and knew that the day would come one day. This is John Bunn, that recently got exonerated. Bunn's story is one of wrongful conviction. Bunn was only 14 years old when his life took a dramatic turn. In August 1991, he and another teenager were accused of taking the life of an off-duty correction officer during a carjacking in Brooklyn.
I'm an innocent man, Your Honor, and I have always been an innocent man.
John Bunn was only 14 years old when his world was turned upside down. Arrested by NYPD Detective Louis Scarcella, he found himself ensnared in a justice system that was quick to judge, but slow to correct its mistakes. Despite the absence of solid evidence, John was convicted and sentenced to spend his youth behind bars, a chilling testament to the flaws within our criminal justice system. While the years passed, John's spirit remained unbroken. Inside his cell, he embarked on a journey of self-education, poring over legal texts and advocating tirelessly for his freedom.
I want to say thank you, Your Honor, because in 27 years, I've been fighting for my life.
The turning point came when it was revealed that Detective Scarcella's methods had led to multiple wrongful convictions. It became clear there wasn't even probable cause to arrest John in the first place. The foundation of his conviction crumbled, paving the way for his exoneration. After 27 years of relentless struggle, John Bunn's name was cleared.
I want y'all to know that y'all convicted and had a wrong man in prison.
His exoneration marked the end of a long night of injustice and the dawn of a new beginning.
Overly blessed and just thanking God that we reached this point.
Following his exoneration, John filed a lawsuit against the city of New York and Detective Scarcella. Beyond seeking reparation, John dedicated himself to advocating for the wrongfully convicted, founding a voice for the unheard, and working tirelessly to reform the criminal justice system. But before he left the courtroom, there was a moment of profound emotion, a heartfelt exchange with the judge, a silent acknowledgement of the years lost and the resilience shown.